which he probably did at some point in any case.
Mm-hmm.
But remember that we have had something like this only generally. We've had hostage situations before, but we seem to not have learned any lesson from this, not the media, not the government, not the policemen, because no lives were lost.
All right, and now the lessons of previous hostage situations, as well as the one of Monday, coming now to the attention of the House of Representatives. Now there is a proposed bill to impose by law a media blackout on reportage of military and police operations in cases of a hostage situation. Now, Congressman Kisumbing, why do you think that bill will even prosper at all?
You know, for us, what I'd like to make categorically clear is that this is not a bill attacking the media. We recognize the role of the media in public information. What we want to make sure is that we are able to protect lives and to save lives by making sure that when a situation such as this happens, that the troop placements, police placements, movement and maneuvers and actions are not reported out to the general public. In this case, the hostage taker had access to television, he had access to radio. And though, of course, there are other circumstances that would have contributed to finding out the actions of the police, we feel that this could possibly help in making sure that a situation like this would not endanger the lives of our men and women in uniform, as well as the civilians that were in the bus.
And you feel it's necessary to have a law that would regulate media operations in these cases because the police could not be expected to impose restrictions by themselves?
What we are calling for is not a blackout. This is a misnomer that's been put on a bill.
So in the bill itself, what is the terminology you
what
use?
What we'd like to do is we would not place any prohibition on covering the event. We certainly do not want the cameras to stop rolling, the audio to stop taping. What we would like is for it not to be reported right at that moment.
So you want delayed delivery of information by either audio or video, so as not to coincide or go simultaneously with the operation
with the actual police or military operation.
So it's not a blackout, but a delayed transmission of the reports.
Yes, and certainly only in that aspect alone, just to make sure that when the operation happens, no lives are put at risk.
Maria.
Sir, I don't think that you need a law to do this, because technically, and this has happened in the past, when the government makes a request, the last instance was in 2007 during the Peninsula siege, when we received calls from DILG at that point to say, please, we're going to go in, don't show it on television. So all the networks took the live cameras, we faced our cameras to the building there. Madali naman ho kaming kausapin dito. At ang gusto ho nating mangyari, really, we want the same things to happen. I think the fault may lie, and it's not blame as much as it is. Verhel is right. This is the first instance. I've covered the Philippines since 1986, and since 1989, that's our bloodiest. The 1989 coup attempt was the bloodiest. We've not had any loss of life, and I think that may have inured authorities and media to that possibility. In this instance, this went haywire very fast, and the people who were supposed to be in control were not. It comes down to that. When Gregorio was lying on the ground, could the police with him then just pushed everyone back rather than just physically picking him up and fighting off the media? Some control needed to happen, and a lot of the things that it's not about placing blame, it's about restoring order during a very fragile situation.
I want to go back to George, because when you're in a situation where the actual event itself is taking place and you're already trying to compose your thoughts and as well as contain your emotions, the police may have been there to try to push back the people who were surrounding Gregorio Mendoza. Did you at one point feel that you had to pull yourself out of that situation before the police could even think of doing that for the media?
Okay, I was pushed back several times in my career, and whenever that...
But not in your promotion. Not in your promotion.
And whenever it happens, I think for the next 5 seconds, and I step back because I don't want to clash with authorities, because clashing with authorities is not part of my job description.
But there are other competing networks there. As journalists, we also want to be sure that we're not out-scooped. That is a consideration sometimes, of course, even in a situation like that. Did it come into play that you said, I'm going to stick with this, even though there might be a call for us to stop broadcasting?
Okay, let's take the example in yesterday's coverage when Gregorio Mendoza was being handled by policemen. When one of the officers told media to
step back.
I immediately I instructed my cameraman, okay, you put your camera here, you can shoot wide angle, let them move in the frame of your camera. You don't need to go inside and shoot it
close up. And somehow, also, of course, in doing so, you were trying what? Trying to do what? Not to show that particular scene in full detail, so as not to. Were you talking about the? Were you thinking about the viewers, or were you thinking about the people involved in the hostage situation?
I'm thinking about towing the line between my role as a journalist and intervening in the job of the policeman.
All right.
We're not supposed to.
All right, because some people, of course, I mean, we want to talk, of course, about how the viewing public is reacting to how media in general covered this event. And the viewing public will always say, you guys know your job, you should have pulled out, you should have pulled the plug, the police didn't have to tell you. Go ahead.
Well, I wonder whether George is typical here. I mean, there is an operating culture in media. A culture that is driven by competition, by how much volume of detail you can put out there in air, by how shrill your reporting might be. I mean, I cannot understand really this, because to me, language alone and the tone of reporting could aggravate this kind of situation. And it's, I must note that I haven't, all the time that I have been watching George, I haven't seen George sang a shrill note. But this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There is a culture operating here. And I think media people will need some training and some education on how to deal with a situation like this. How to appreciate a situation so that the public interest may be served enough without having to go and put out all those controversial and gory, you might say, detail out there in here.
Now, before we go to a break, very quickly, back to Maria. In answer to the proposed bill by Congressman Quisumbing, can a delayed broadcast now be a protocol for network, particularly ABS-CBN?
Again, in general, I don't necessarily think you need a law to do something like that. In Malaysia, for example,
so you don't want to be regulated by a law?
As a rule, in Malaysia, it is a law. They've actually regulated certain stations to be at least 3 minutes delayed.
All right.
Because that's an attempt at censorship on the Malaysian government's end. That's what they did. Having said that, on this end, it's a matter of notifying people. You know, in Proclamation 1017 in 2006, the government asked all the network news heads to meet. They warned us about what they would be doing. They told us what could happen to us. In fact, at that point, they threatened our franchise. You know, but that's clear communication. You know, that's very clear. In this situation, and we can talk about this more, but there were many instances where the media we did what we could do given our limited area of control. And I think George knows some of them, our people know some of them. Yes, it was competitive, but at the same time, we can loosen that. That's not the most important thing at that point.
All right, we have to go to a quick break. We'll be back right away with our guests, Maria Ressa, George Carino, Vergel Santos, and Congressman Quisumbing. We'll have to take a short break. Don't go away.